this will continue and you will continue to work with us. Before COVID-19, we were actually in the process of preparing to launch a social entrepreneurship sustainable development goals acceleration platforms, as we call them, with UNSCAP. But because of COVID-19, that we were supposed to launch those in March, but because of COVID-19, we had to postpone that indefinitely. And so we're in a process of actually assessing the impact of COVID-19 on the social enterprise sector and our stakeholders in Asia. And it's in context that we actually are starting an initiative called COVID-19 Social Enterprise Response and Visioning Effort Asia. So before we actually go to the main topic, which is achieving social food security, we would like to just introduce the initiative first. So the Social Enterprise Response and Visioning Effort in Asia is actually a response inspired by various initiatives that our members in Asia started in response to COVID-19. And for example, Dompet Duafa in Indonesia has been in the forefront of providing free hospital care as well as pre-screening to poverty sectors in Indonesia, in the forefront, the health response to the pandemic. And they built, apart from their hospitals that are providing free access to pre-screening, rapid testing, and hospital care to the poor, they actually also built temporary care facilities and set up hand wash stations in public places and personal hygiene kits distributed to vendors and other groups to support their education campaign to manage COVID-19. There were also other responses, such as our member in Asia, regional member, World Fair Trade Organization Asia, which actually has a network of fair trade organizations in 10 countries. They started to produce and distribute what they called people's masks, and other personal protective equipment to meet the local needs of people amidst the shortages of imported personal protective equipment. And then, so that's their WTO Asia is based in Thailand. They have members in many countries, and 10 of their members in different countries actually did this as a response to COVID-19. And then in the Philippines, one of our members in the Philippines, the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, they started to engage the Department of Agriculture to secure open pollinated varieties of seeds in order for them to actually disperse such to farmer cooperators who can promote as part of food security measures. And the emphasis on open pollinated varieties is actually important because most of the seeds being distributed and that are available in the market are hybrid seeds that cannot be used for planting again. And this affects food security in a very important way. And so this initiative was actually an effort to promote community-based seed banking and scale up their sustainable agriculture initiatives. So these are just three examples of responses of our members and partners to COVID-19. And inspired by these initiatives, we decided that we needed to set up a platform that would try to look at how we could work together to respond to this pandemic and to build a common agenda. So we have called it Social Enterprise Response and Visioning Effort, or SERV Asia. So ensuring food security in Asia is actually something very important as part of the response to the pandemic. And ensuring food security is an important concern because, of course, we're all concerned about shorter food miles. We're concerned about safe and the healthy and and our health. We're concerned about growing our own food so that we're not dependent on companies that are actually that are selling the food far away from us. And as I said, the access to seeds has become a very important issue. So on the whole, ensuring food security in Asia is an evolving theme of the response to COVID-19 of social enterprises. And we have started a pilot initiative in the Philippines that we're wanting to actually share with you as well. Gomer, can you please, the next slide? So the idea of the initiative on food security, we've called it scaling up 3S model for food security. And this is being initiated in partnership with the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement with its partner cooperative, but it's also involving partnership building and movement building to engage all the other sustainable agriculture players in the Philippines. And we're just sharing this with you as a starting point, but I'm sure that many of you there are 13 countries represented among those who actually joined the session today. And the food security initiative that we are sharing with you in the Philippines is just an example of what we've started to do. And it can actually create its own character in different countries depending on the state of the movement for sustainable agriculture. But at the same time, we called it 3S, the model of 3S, because they need to be seed to table systems. So we need to have control over the seeds and then the whole process up to the table when we reach the households who actually eat the food. And sustainable agriculture, as you know, involves many technologies. It includes low external input agriculture, but it also involves organic farming and biodynamic farming and ecological agriculture, natural farming. But the point is that we are not using chemicals to actually poison the food that we plant and we eat. And of course, when you talk about the third S being social enterprises are social mission driven businesses, and they actually, especially in developing countries, social enterprises are the ones that are engaging the poor to make them stakeholders in economic development. And they come in the form of cooperatives, associations, social mission-driven corporations that create wealth, but also distribute wealth that they create. So, so we believe that scaling up 3S models for food security is the way to go in terms of assuring that food security is sustainable. And yeah. So of course, when we talk about the 3S model for building for food security, let me just share with you some of the examples that the Philippine Rural Instruction Movement actually is doing with their partner cooperatives. One such initiative is their partnership with Vizcaya Fresh. Vizcaya Fresh is actually a social enterprise that is producing and marketing organic vegetables. And they were already doing that and distributing such not only in the province where they are, but they were supplying already households in Metro Manila even before the pandemic. So this is So Vizcaya Fresh is an evolving, or it's an established social enterprise that is assisted by the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement. There's in Nueva Ecija, on the other hand, we have Kooperatibang Likas ng Nueva Ecija, a partner cooperative of PRRM that was actually doing production, processing, and marketing of organic rice already, even before the pandemic. And they were supplying not only locally, but also supplying supermarkets through intermediary social enterprises that were working with them. Yeah. And a third example of a setup model for 3S is actually the Samaleño Organico Producers Cooperative in Samal, Bataan. And before the pandemic, they were already engaged in organic fertilizer production and distribution. So let me just, actually the Samaleño Organico Producers Cooperative is very close to my heart because I actually live in Samal. I've been here since March during the extended community quarantine, and we partnered with PRRM, the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, to actually secure open pollinated varieties of seeds from the Department of Agriculture, and then we got engaged in dispersing these vegetable seeds to farmer cooperators, and we're still in the process of distributing the seeds that we have secured, and to promote organic vegetable farming, as well as we are going to also be assisting the marketing of organic vegetables to citizens of Samal, because the context that we are in is that before the pandemic, while Samal, the town where Samaleño Organico Producers Cooperative was self-sufficient with rice, no? It actually is very much lacking with respect to vegetables. So we're wanting to develop the food security of Samal in terms of vegetables that are organic. No? So Samaleño Organico Producers Cooperative will also be doing a marketing campaign to actually sell, as well as promote the consumption of organic vegetables. So in a manner speaking, I shared with you 3 startup social enterprises that were partnered with the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement that are actually actors in building a broad movement for sustainable agriculture, social enterprise, and seed-to-table initiatives for food security. And actually, if we talk about building a broad 3S movement for food security in the Philippines, we're needing to engage all the actors, and not only cooperatives and social enterprises, but other actors as well who are interested to achieve food security. So in building a broad movement for food security in the Philippines, there are other evolving partnerships. And the evolving partnerships include a partnership with Oxfam. Oxfam is actually interested to ensure that the movement for food security integrates women's economic empowerment as a concern. And we also have an evolving partnership with Atikha and the Ecolife Overseas Filipino Workers Marketing Cooperative, and they're interested to develop sustainable agriculture-based social enterprises that would engage a big group of returning overseas Filipino workers and their families in providing sustainable livelihoods for them, but at the same time working towards food security. We're also another evolving partnership for this 3S movement is Good Food Community. They're actually another social enterprise that has an existing sustainable agriculture-based seed-to-table initiative. And during this pandemic, the organic vegetables that they were producing and selling to households in Metro Manila were actually, they transformed their operations so that half of what they're supposed to be selling went into providing relief to urban poor communities. So they still sold to households in Metro Manila, but they actually also provided organic vegetables as part of the relief packages for the urban poor. And then another evolving partnership that's interesting is with the Roots Collective. This is a group of young social entrepreneurs who are wanting to build the capability of social enterprises in digital marketing and e-commerce, which are actually expected to have a more prominent place in marketing strategies after the pandemic. So I'm just giving you some examples of the evolving partnerships for the 3S movement. And of course, as we build a broad movement for food security in the Philippines with all these partnerships, we're also needing to engage government. And engaging government would be in several fronts. For example, we even before the pandemic, the poverty reduction through social entrepreneurship coalition was already pushing for the enactment of a poverty reduction through social entrepreneurship bill, which seeks to have social enterprise, which seeks to recognize and support social enterprises so that they can be supported as partners in reducing poverty in the Philippines. And we're hoping that given the importance of social enterprises as shown by the need to be social mission driven when you respond to pandemics like COVID-19, we're hoping that Congress will finally pass the bill as a priority bill. And the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition will be stepping up the campaign to actually have this passed. Engaging government will also mean that we engage the Department of Agriculture, which is the main department that is promoting sustainable agriculture in the Philippines. There is already a law, an organic law in the Philippines that has been passed since 2010, but there are many issues and problems. But what we are actually wanting to do is to engage the Department of Agriculture so that a support program for sustainable agriculture, a support program for social enterprise development, and a support program for seed-to-table systems for food security becomes a reality in a major way. Because the Department of Agriculture is actually doing some of this already, but not to the scale where it becomes part of, it's able to support food security in a sustainable way, the way that we are advocating. And before the pandemic, the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition engaged the Department of Agriculture Secretary, William Dar, in a dialogue, and he was interested to support social enterprise development in agricultural value chains. And we're hoping that we can go back to him and discuss how we can therefore mainstream 3S for food security with the support of government programs that are scaled up as well. So maybe what is important is that while we are evolving this initiative for food security, we're also wanting to invest in developing a more comprehensive agenda for the social enterprise sector in the Philippines to respond to the pandemic. And so we've started a social enterprise action research in order for us to actually evolve this comprehensive agenda. And we are studying the impact of COVID-19 on social enterprises and the primary stakeholders among the poor that they serve. We're looking at more comprehensively the relief and recovery efforts that they're doing. And we're wanting to look at suggestions that they have for collaboration towards a common agenda so that we can also not only recover from the pandemic, but also become actors in building back better. And of course, this will entail enabling policies, programs, and initiatives to support this. Yeah. So all told, we're hoping that what we're doing in the Philippines is also something that is being done in other countries. Like I was just talking to our member in Vietnam, and they are completing their own research in order for their agenda to be evolved. But all told, as I said, this is just a first attempt to discuss and to start the discussions on COVID-19 social enterprise responses and a visioning effort. And we're hoping that this conversation could actually spur more discussions for partnerships to happen so that we can work together to not only help social enterprises recover from the pandemic, but to work with social enterprises as a sector so that they can be a force for building back better. So I think we still have a lot of time, I think, for some open forum. I noticed that the signing up, among those who have signed up, there are people from at least 13 countries who signed up, coming from different organizations, and we would really be interested to dialogue with you and to work with you. Some of you are already members and partners of ISEA, but others of you are actually just new in the discussion with us. So we're hoping that together we can work so that the social enterprise sector in Asia can be a force, not only for the recovery of their sector, but also for becoming an initiator for efforts to build back better after the pandemic. And so lastly, I would just like to thank the Catalyst 2030 team that actually put these sessions together. And ISEA is a member of the Catalyst 2030 initiative. And we're hoping to continue to work with Catalyst 2030 in bringing our agenda of responding to COVID-19 in a significant way forward. Thank you. So maybe we can now start the open forum. I think there are two ways that you can participate. One is you can either send a message to us, and then we can read out the message and discuss your question or comment. But at the same time, I think Gomer, who's actually co-hosting this meeting with me from ISEA, can also assist in the process of unmuting you so that you can participate in the open forum. Thank you. So are there any? So I see Ed De La Torre on the screen. Gomer, can we unmute Ed?
Yes, thank you, Lisa, for inviting me and for your presentation. All I like to add is that in addition to social enterprises, our partners, and the national government, we can partner with local governments. I am particularly interested, and I know some of the initiatives of members of a national association of local executives, mayors, who call themselves League of Organic Agriculture Municipalities, Cities, and Provinces of the Philippines. And I'm going to communicate with them the results of our meeting and invite them to our platform, because in addition to national government, there would also be both public money, services, and policies that are more focused in particular towns, which, especially in some cities, which tend to be market centers and therefore can be kind of link to our small producers in the remote villages so that the whole enterprise approach to a value chain, or as you say, from seed to table, can expand through clusters. A lot depends on whether they will be still under strict community quarantine or eventually be part of a more relaxed general quarantine. But anyway, we're thinking of building something now and scaling it up when the restrictions are lifted. But I think the driving core of being based in social, both producers, intermediaries, and making it an enterprise, something that will generate resources and benefits for all participants, is important because traditionally post-relief or relief and post-relief tend to focus so much on public sector money and services. And I think this is the important component. It tends to be occupied before only by private sector, meaning corporations who will kind of generate but or reopen their businesses. But I think there's a lot of talk now about SMEs as being the one covering a much larger portion of the working population. So I think we can position in a way the three S of table, social enterprise, and sustainable development can link somehow to the renewed, at least at the level of words and hopefully policies, support for small and medium enterprises. That's all. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. I think your point regarding engaging small and medium enterprises and also local government units is very important because among there are actually small and medium enterprises that are also already in the organic agriculture industry. Yeah? So thank you very much for that, Ed. I see a question regarding how people can come on board in relation to the partnership. There are two ways that you can actually partner with us. One is through ISEA, if you're wanting to get more involved in the regional effort. But the other, for the food security effort in the Philippines, I think you can, the initiator now of this is, PRRM, who is also a member of ISEA, but there are other organizations that are actually already involved in sustainable agriculture, whom we hope could actually be engaged, no, to come together. So, for those of you who are asking how you can come into the partnership at the regional level, please get in touch with us, with the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. At the local level, we can get you connected in the Philippines to our members and partners in the same way that we can also get you connected to our members and partners in other countries. No? So for example, in the registration for today's session, there were also members coming from Indonesia and members coming from Thailand who actually came to this session. So it's not just the Philippines, it's just that I use that as an example to get the discussion going. But there are many sustainable agriculture seed to table initiatives also in Thailand. Maybe World Fair Trade Organization Asia can share with you some of their members actually in Thailand who are into sustainable agriculture and fisheries, and would very much be in a position to lead also seed to table, sustainable agriculture, social enterprise systems. Yeah. So I think Mythos is here. Yeah, Mythos, are you in the room? I saw you in the registration, but I'm not sure if you're in the room. Gomer, can you help?
She's not here, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. So, but there are my point. The point that I was just raising is because I think ISEA works at the regional level, but of course we're based in the Philippines, able to do also work with local members and partners. But for the COVID-19 Serve Philippine initiative, we are partnering with the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition. And I think some of the members of the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition are here. But the secretariat work is also being handled by Gomer Padong of ISEA. No? So you can get in touch with us as well. And you did give us your emails. So for all of you who registered and participated in this discussion, we will be for sure getting in touch with you. So there's another question on how will I didn't see the whole thing. How will social enterprises? Can you help, Gomer? I cannot see the.
We have a question from Net Daniel. How will
Yeah.
SE cope with the challenges of the new normal? This would be around physical distancing, limited business hours, which is expected to advance, which is
Yeah.
expected to advantage big corporations that have deep pockets to invest on digital marketing, home delivery systems, and e-commerce.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Net. I think that's the reason why we found it exciting to work with young social entrepreneurs who are actually engaged in digital marketing and e-commerce. And I think he registered. Jamir Ocampo, are you here? Because he registered as a participant, I think. And they have a group
Jamir
of
is here.
young social entrepreneurs. Yeah. Jamir, would you like to share your thoughts on this? The
Yes.
the question.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jamir. Yeah.
So basically, it's when it comes for it will always go down now to online commerce, e-commerce. So currently, we basically Roots is a community of young social entrepreneurs. We focus on pop-ups and physical retail events in commercial malls. But this time, we have to pivot to online commerce by doing all types of e-commerce strategies, basically website, web store, but we're also now strengthening as well online delivery channels. But this is we've been talking about Ma'am Lisa. This strategy is quite limited to brands social enterprises that have established brands. So they have to have their own social media following as well. But we will have to explore. We're now trying to explore how to directly work with farmer producers who actually works before with intermediaries like physical malls and physical retailers because this business is expected to go down. So we have to find ways how to get products directly from the producers, from the farmers, and facilitate an e-commerce transaction to customers. We're still working on that, but currently our first initiative is to launch the website.
Yeah. Yeah. In addition, we've found, Net, that in the provinces, when you talk about social distancing and work in the farms, actually working in the farms, you have social distancing naturally. You're not really very near each other. So if despite the pandemic, actually, farming has continued in the provinces. It is when you start to do the trading and marketing that you, of course, get into processes that would need, strict physical distancing and all that. But I guess this is the reason why social enterprises need to have a platform. Because as Jamir was pointing out, while they do have a capacity and initial efforts to express their willingness to partner to assist with digital marketing and e-commerce capacity building, we really need to put our heads together in order for us to really, adjust to the new normal. At the same time, in talking to some social enterprises that were working with farmers and then distributing directly to households like Good Food Community, the biggest challenge to them was actually the inbound logistics, meaning to say, bringing the vegetables from the Cordillera to Manila, to the National Capital Region. And what they found useful was partnering with groups like the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, who actually had trucks that can be used to transport their vegetables from the communities to Metro Manila. And then in Metro Manila, what they did was to partner with existing enterprises, small enterprises that are actually already delivering to deliver directly to the households, because while they were doing that before, now they were delivering, everything was being delivered to the households. I don't know if Red, are you here? Red Paran? You're working with Good Food, right? Is she here? Because I saw her in the registry. They're a small enterprise that actually partnered with a Good Food community to start delivering to households, no? After the inbound logistics was solved in partnership with a farmers organization that actually had the capacity to help them with inbound logistics from farms. They partnered with an enterprise that was distributing, that was delivering, no, vegetables to the household. So those are some of the things that were actually
Lisa, we
that
also
actually
have
were,
another
yeah.
question from Georgie Pantoja. We have started another social
Yeah.
enterprise in response to COVID-19, especially linking food to the poor by tapping donors who are doing relief and the market. We work with Maymay Lim and Bennett Grace Tenesha of Peace Builders Community. We are wondering for those fruits and vegetables sourced out from Nueva Ecija and Cordillera are owned by hacienderos that actually act as our market contacts. How do we deal with farmers employed by big landowners so that they also benefit?
Well, what we're trying to do is to actually work with existing social enterprises who do have connections to the farmers. And these are not companies. Like Good Food Community is a social enterprise. And Vizcaya Fresh is also a social enterprise. And they work directly with farmers. So I guess the whole point of this platform that we are trying to develop for 3S is to encourage the scaling up of social enterprises so that they can actually engage more farmers. Of course, we can also deal with businesses, but push them to become more inclusive, yeah? But I think it's a process. And I was mentioning to you that in the relief efforts for urban poor in Metro Manila, Good Food Community actually raised funds to make sure that half of the produce that they were bringing to Metro Manila actually went into the relief packs for urban poor communities. No? So I think what you are describing in terms of effort, dealing with corporations or hacienderos, that's one way of doing it, but there are actually emerging social enterprise initiatives that need to be scaled up, and this is the whole reason why we're setting up, I think, we're pushing for a broad 3S movement with the support of government also. So I hope there was another question from Net.
Yes. Before the question from Net, Miss Lisa, there's a previous question asked by Mira
Yeah.
Raghavendra. In our work, movement building.
Yeah.
In our work, movement building happens with poor communities. And how does government and others help in social enterprise marketing? And hold your thought. I'll just read Net's second question so that you will answer them maybe at the same breath. Next question is around, wouldn't those inbound challenges in transporting goods from producers to the market eat up the profit margins of social enterprises to the point of making the enterprise unviable?
Yeah. So I'll just answer that first in terms of the inbound logistics. Whether or not the social enterprises are actually, all social enterprises and even ordinary businesses who try to supply vegetables for costs. So whether you're a social enterprise or you're a business, you need to actually put that into your costs. So we just have to, I think, work towards developing systems that have economies of scale, so the enterprise seed to table systems that we're talking about can be efficient enough so that social enterprises are creating wealth and distributing that wealth rather than losing money. Yeah? So, because the intention is for us to assist the development of viable social enterprises, and not, make it a losing proposition. Because as Ed De La Torre was pointing out earlier, we need to be sustainable so that it's not just, providing relief, but it's really a viable social enterprise operation from seed to table. Of course, this needs to be worked out. No? Maybe if an organization like the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas has the logistics to bring vegetables from the Cordillera to the National Capital Region, it is not unthinkable for people's organizations to actually invest in trucking facilities, because it is already happening. No? And I do know that there are sustainable agriculture initiatives such as the ones in Negros, for example. Alter Trade has trucking services supporting their social enterprise operations, bringing bananas and sugar from the farms to actually to their processing site and to where they actually export their products. No? So existing social enterprises already have some experience with inbound logistics, and we just need to pull our heads together to make those viable, I think, because there are viable and non-viable social enterprise initiatives, no? And economies of scale will have to be taken into account. On the government's role in social enterprise marketing, actually, in the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Bill, we are pushing government to have a market development program for social enterprises where they can play a big role in helping to create markets. But government itself can actually be a big market for social enterprises. Like, I know that, for example, some coffee enterprises, I don't know if Georgie Pantoja from Coffee for Peace is already doing this, but I know that Bota Central is actually selling to local government units, yeah, as a market. And also, if you look at relief operations and feeding programs, DSWD and the Department of Education's feeding program can actually all work with us to provide markets for vegetables, to provide markets for rice. No? So government is not just there to provide support in terms of legislation and capacity, enabling policy, but they can be a market. They can be a big market, and that can be a boom in terms of providing markets for social enterprises. So, Georgie, did you want to say something? Georgie Pantoja, I see you.
Yes, we are promoting our local coffee, especially our commodity coffee, locally here. But of course, the problem also would be the logistics. Like, we would receive orders in Manila, but no shipper. So we can only do locally, like within Davao City, and our business is still continuing on in terms of roasted coffee, and for our coffee shop, the delivery thing, pick up or delivery. So
within Davao.
Within Davao.
Yeah. So I guess to the question regarding the inbound logistics, no, that will need to be a response that we will work out with government as a whole. No, it's not something that we can solve on our own. But we should, as social enterprises, we also need to promote shorter food miles, I think. And in the promotion of shorter food miles, we need to be able to produce and sell as much of what we produce locally so that we can actually promote sustainable consumption and production. Yeah. So, Gomer, are there other questions that have come up?
Yes, actually, there's a question for Jamir, if Jamir is still on the call. Jamir, there's a question from Miss Net about how does going digital impact on the profit margins of social enterprises? And I guess this is also one of the questions that we're trying to answer with our survey. And of course, Jamir, you can also ask your questions. Yeah, you can unmute yourself, please.
Okay, got it. Sorry, Gomer, I wasn't able to listen to the other one, but I think I have a question. If do we have, can we also make some engagement with private transport companies? I think they're operational and they have food pass. I think they're allowed to get to pass agricultural products because this digital marketing can only work for within island economy, but can't transport goods like what I heard from Coffee for Peace or products from Manila going to Mindanao. We eventually need to trade these products because that's where the demand is. So I know there's some initiatives with Air 21, with LBC. Maybe this is something also to explore. Another comment is to go digital. I think we have to consider digital marketers will also act as retailers. So they will also act like getting commissions as any retailer would, physical retailer would also require. But I think they will ask for lesser margins compared to physical retailer, like sort of 30% to 35%. Usually physical retailer goes to 30% to 35% of your suggested retail price. I think for e-commerce, we can demand from around 20 to 25%. That's it for now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamir.
Just because you're there, the question actually of Ms. Net is around profit margins of social enterprises who have gone digital. How are the profit margins basically?
I think mostly what I noticed, mostly those who social enterprises having strong digital presence are actually non-essential. These are lifestyle brands that are very aspirational, but and they have a strong following.
Yeah.
An indicator is to check on their accounts, on their social media, like 30,000, 10,000 following. So that will give them some market. However, I think a number of, like my company, Chaalaya, for my own company, I think 60-70% still relies on B2B, especially us acting as primary or process input supplier to a number of frontline industries that are on the retail. For example, we supply teas to restaurants and cafes and hotels, and these are all badly affected. So definitely, I don't know yet with the profit, but in terms of sales record, we expect a reduction to around 70% to 60% because we are still mainly B2B businesses. However, for those companies that have, I think everyone will decline because even those enterprises having strong social media following, they won't also be the priority of consumers because there's a strong shift towards essential goods. And even the purchasing power will also shift away from high price products, I think, until for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
Thank you,
actually,
Jamir.
yeah. Actually, in relation to what Jamir just said, one of the reasons why we're doing the survey is we're wanting to look at the differentiated impact of COVID-19 on different economic subsectors where social enterprises are situated. No? Because, for example, it's very different with those that are in food, with those that are in crafts, no? For example. So if you are so we are wanting to look at how we can assist social enterprises in different ways, because depending on where they are, they will need to be assisted differently in relation to adjusting to the new normal. No? So some will need to maybe close their social enterprises and build new ones. Some will need to just shift their marketing strategies, But I think there needs to be a serious effort to plan at the low level of each social enterprise, but at the same time, we need platforms to share experiences and to develop common ways of looking at how we can work together to, to face this new normal, where digital marketing will be will be more important, and we will be facing logistical issues with respect to serving our markets and the like. No? So, but this has been, we only have 5 minutes left. And Gomer, do we still have other questions that have not been answered, or?
There's a question around partnering with the private sector, for example, PayMaya or Mint, which is digital payment services. And then Miss Georgie is raising her hand around a sharing about commissions. So maybe we can have Miss Georgie first before we can go to partnerships with PayMaya and Mint. Go ahead, Miss Georgie. Please unmute yourself. Good.
Okay, I just want to share because of ECQ, most of our employees cannot leave their places. So what we did was process an IATF so that they would be able to alternately come to work. And because I maximize the use of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also posting a lot about our product. So we get orders, and I need somebody to deliver the product. So what I did was employ as a delivery person, one of our employee to do the delivery and share the delivery fee to him or to her. And second is I encourage them to sell coffee to their friends, and I gave them our cost price, and any margin they produce, it's theirs, it's their commission, because all we needed to do is to recuperate our cost production and some operational costs to produce roasted coffee, and we share the commission to them so that they would be encouraged and they would have some form of income during the lockdown period, which encouraged them. So that's one thing.
Okay, so thank you, Georgie. And in partnering with the private sector, I think that's something that each social enterprise can do. But at the same time, if we are able to see that there is a need for, a platform that would help social enterprises as a whole partnering with these private sectors, sector players, there might be room for us to do something about that. No? But on the whole, I think efforts during the ECQ will be slightly different to efforts during the transition, to the new normal, and then post-COVID. Yeah. So we're really talking about 3 different stages here, and I think we can benefit a lot from sharing experiences and then building building a platform that would serve as a way to problematize and work on solutions together. Yeah. So that I guess given that our time is almost up, how much time do we have, Gomer? Gomer? How much time do we have? Do we still have time?
We're just a minute after 5, so we need to wrap up.
Yeah. So
Can I just say?
I'd like to say
Maria
thank you very
Lisa? Maria Lisa,
Yeah,
this is Juru. Can I just say?
Yes.
I've
Yes.
been listening in on the conversation, and I think
Yeah.
this is an amazing outcome of your session if you're agreeing to have a common platform to take forward. And maybe what is nice, because we'll be having a series, is that you can probably in the next week or two conceptualize this if this group is agreeing, and then in the next series invite more people to take that forward. I think that would be a really good outcome.
Yeah.
If you all think that is something. Sorry if we are running over. Apologies. Yeah.
No, but Jeru, thank you for saying that, because I think that's actually something that we need to take away from this session, that there is a realization that those of us who are actually already in the social enterprise space, we see a need to work together. But we also need to explore partnerships, no? Partnerships with government, partnerships with SMEs and private businesses, as well as partnerships with local government units and the national government. And maybe with that note, no, we can agree that this group that met today can start the process of bringing forward more conversations so that we can work together towards defining a common agenda to respond to the pandemic during the ECQ, during the transition, and post ECQ. Because has been pointed out, I think the situation will be different during those 3 different stages, and we will need to do relief, we will need to do recovery, and we will need to work towards building back better. No? And those 3 different contexts will have to be taken into account when we work together in this space. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for for coming into this conversation and being part of the first discussion on COVID-19 social enterprise response and visioning effort. We're hoping that we could move this forward not only in this platform with Catalyst 2030, but we're actually also planning to have regular sessions at the regional level and at the local level in each country where we operate. So we're hoping that for those of you, the members and partners of ISEA from other countries, from Indonesia, from Thailand, and the like, who didn't have a chance to speak during this session, we're hoping that in the next sessions to come, we could actually be featuring initiatives from these countries as well. So thank you very much, and we would like to thank you again, and we will be in touch with all of you towards evolving and developing this platform as a response to COVID-19 and also developing a common vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. I will post all the recording, the video recording on our ISEA Facebook page, and hope to talk to you again soon. Of course, we'd also like to thank our colleagues from One Family Foundation, Susanna, and Jeru, of course.
And
Thank
Jeru.
you. Yes.
Thank you very much, and see you in the next sessions and also in our various country initiatives and our initiatives at the regional level.
Thank you. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Ada bumbu lodeh nggak?